We left July the 23rd and got home August the 28th. In that period of time, we participated in a building project in Mount Pleasant, Texas. Got pictures of that. Science Hill, Kentucky. Got pictures of that. And attended a missions revival at Hillcrest Baptist Church in Ackworth, Georgia. And got pictures of two. One of those missionaries, Paul Lamb. We support Paul Lamb on a monthly basis. And then Toby Cribbs, who's not out of Hillcrest Baptist Church, but he still has a jail ministry up in Ducktown, Tennessee, and he always shows up for this mission revival. We visited 5 churches. We visited Neville's Chapel there at Mount Pleasant, Texas. Sean Finley is the pastor there. And we attended a Wednesday night with Mike Thompson, Jim. Mike Thompson at Mount Sinai Missionary Baptist Church, just about 7 or 8 miles north of Neville's Chapel, and he'd been there for 30 years. He pastored that church for 30 years. But his family is still very involved in ministry. One of his sons, David, I think, came here and worked on our fellowship hall. He's got a disaster relief team that he came, and do you remember them? They were from Texas, Houston, Texas. Yeah. And so that was Mike Thompson, and Mike and Judy Thompson's son. They were missionaries in Japan, and we used to support them when they were missionaries in Japan. Yeah. And so, do what? All right. Anyway, Mike and Judy Thompson's grandson, Matthew Thompson, is a Bible translator in Indonesia. And he's got a wife. What's his wife's name? Matthew. I saw a picture. Sarah. Yeah, seemed like. Anyway. So anyway, this is a family that we've known for a long time. And they're still active in ministry and all. But anyway, that was a pleasure to visit with them a Wednesday night service. And then we visited White Oak in Nancy, Kentucky, where Josh McClendon is pastor. We attended Pine Hill Baptist Church over in Somerset, Kentucky. And this is the sponsoring church of Hugo Malazzi, who we support on a monthly basis. And Don Branscombe is the pastor there. And then Wednesday night, we visited Clay Hills Missionary Baptist Church there in Somerset. And this is where Kim and Randy Kim go to church. And then, of course, we were with Hillcrest Baptist Church there in Ackworth, Georgia for the mission revival. And we were treated as guests. We just showed up there to attend, and we got treated as one of the invited guests, missionary guests. So anyway, so that was a treat to be able to do that. And then, Lord bless my heart, our church voted to donate our old 99 Chevy van, that one that had the garnet and gold paint scheme. Had Jim Harris on the side, pastor, Riverview Heights. Loraine and I hauled it to Ackworth, Georgia, where Ricky Boyle is one of the master missionary mechanics, and dropped it off there. And it's kind of been sitting there. I think it made a trip to Kentucky. Anyway, Ricky got a call about 2 months ago and said, Hugo Malazzi says there's a missionary in Juarez, Mexico that needs that van. And so Ricky, he had to kind of work at it kind of hard. And our church, we sent $5,000 to fix the van. Ricky spent $3,200 in parts, labor's free, and fixed that van and loaded it up and drove to Mount Pleasant, Texas. And I got the opportunity to deliver that van to El Paso, Texas, and Juarez, Mexico, and I got some pictures of that. So that was one of the many highlights of the trip, to be able to do that. All right, next slide. All right, July 27th through August 10th was the project date for the Neville's Chapel Baptist Church in Mount Pleasant, Texas. The project was to refurbish the old sanctuary that was deconstructed by church members down to interior and outside walls and the roof. The church actually talked about tearing the building down. I mean, it was a pretty dilapidated building. And a little old 90-year-old lady says, I was saved in that church. So they voted to refurbish it rather than tear it down. But they had to take the floor out because it was deteriorated. And so the project started from the dirt floor with interior walls and a roof. And some of the trusses were sagging a little bit. So anyway, July 26th was actually the day before the project started. There were folks that showed up. And you see the cement mixer. They were pouring footers inside there. And right. Well, I was there when Sherman was tearing it out in May, and it was rotted and falling apart. So anyway, so there was a lot of work done even before the project started. But so that work the day before the project, they were able to put the subfloor in there. Next slide. Official start of the 2-week project began September, July 27th. The project jump-start July 26th with the subfloor complete, allowed floor decking to begin on Saturday, July 27th. Now, some of y'all might recognize some of the stars in here. You see Titus down the bottom left. Actually, they're delivering water there. That's Eric Lane. Yeah, it's Aaron Lane and Michaela from West Virginia, who's Alex Lane's girlfriend. Anyway, but then up right you see Titus. He's on the end of a piece of plywood, bringing it in. Here, bottom left, the guy with the back to us, Richard Wharton. And it's like he's straddling the fence. He can't figure out which way to go. But they're trying to get subfloor in. So you see, there's the outside of the building with the plywood piled up in the parking lot. And so all that ended up inside. Next slide. During the 2-week project, approximately 70 workers. Now, we drove about 1,400 miles to get there. Folks from Washington drove 1,700 miles to get there, and there was like 4 or 5 of them. So there was like 20 travel trailers, and there's a picture on the left. There was one group over here, and then one group, we're in the group on the right. So there was over 20 travel trailers parked. People stayed in the rooms in the church building. People had rooms in motels, and then there were some that stayed with church members. I think Sean Finley hosted somebody, Sean and Rachel. And then the ladies of the church and the young people's class fixed and served 3 meals a day. They didn't serve meals the last 2 days of the project because we were basically done. So anyway, real blessing. And then on Sundays they didn't serve. We were kind of on our own on Sundays. Next slide. With floor decking finished except for rooms plumbers needed to install piping under the floor, new interior stud walls went up next. Next. Work inside the building simultaneously included plumbing, and these guys here are from a church in Arkansas, and they have a plumbing company. They were with us in Oklahoma, and boy, they jumped in there in about 3 days. They had the plumbing done. Next slide. There was HVAC assembly and installation. This guy in the upper left is Raymond Ison, and that's his wife Judy, and Raymond's in Arkansas, and that brother, he has been a blessing to the projects. In Oklahoma, he was there. I think he installed either 31 or 38 air conditioners in that youth camp there. And he gets the air conditioners at a discount, and they keep him busy all the time. But he was head of the assembly. You see they're fixed the ductwork, and they're putting up in the ceiling, the trusses. Next. Then there was electrical installation. This guy on the left, his name is Tommy Baker, and Mom and Daddy did a lot of projects with him. He's a master electrician. He retired in like 2001, 2002, and the Lord called him to this ministry, and he's been such a blessing to the projects. And what's amazing, and I think some of the slides will emphasize this a little more, people from everywhere come, from every walk of life, and you think, this is going to be a mess. Because you got this going on here, and this going on here, and this going over here. But the way the Lord just orchestrates and brings everything together. And when it's done, it's quality work. Yes, ma'am? Socket? Wall socket? Yeah. That was at Hattiesburg, Mississippi, in Bruce Bett's church, and he's a black pastor, and that church is right in the middle of the black neighborhood. So, anyway, can you imagine, preacher, dealing with that mess on the right? Yeah, but I mean, when they're done, you plug it in, it works, and flip the light, it works. Next. While work outside included, that was work inside. Work outside was going on siding. That's hardy board we're putting up. Next. Pouring concrete pads for the AC units. And you see a lot of handwork going on there. They did have a mixer, a concrete mixer that would pour it. But a lot of handwork going, a lot of sweating going on. That was in Kentucky. Yeah, I didn't get any picture of that. Next, they were installing new windows. Took the old windows out, installed new windows. You see who's got a hold of that old window up top? There's ladies out there with their gloves on working. Next, to raising roofs. I mean, I don't know what they're doing here on the left. They didn't stand there and hold that up all day. But on the right, that's Tim Turner, and he's got the bucket of the backhoe. They had to cut the pipes on that roof that joined the two buildings and raise it up about a foot. Otherwise, the steps and the door going up the new building, you were going to hit your head about right there. So, Tim Turner there from Texas, I don't know, his ministry called Labor of Love. And he and his wife Cindy, they travel. They spent a lot of time in Iowa following the tornado. There was a town out there that he said it just literally wiped it out there. And they were out there ministering to families and all. But Tim, he can weld, he can run a backhoe. And Tim Turner kind of like Dave Barrington. I thank God the Lord saved him. Because before the Lord saved him, he'd been pretty rough to deal with. Next. Working on sewer lines, yeah. You get to do a little bit of everything. Next. The staining boards for the accent wall in the big room. And there the ladies had the tent out and had the boards up, and they were staining these boards on the right. And you'll see at the end of the project how they were used. Next. Workers range from young to old, male to female. Carpenters, plumbers, HVAC techs, master electricians, gas pipeline workers, equipment operators, welders, mechanics, truck drivers, nurses, teachers, students, architects, accountants, preachers, evangelists, gospel singers, retirees, and a host of other volunteers with a mind to get the work done. And it's just a blessing, just amazing. These two pictures in the middle, that old fellow right there, his name is Sherman Goetz. And he's a member of Neville's Chapel. And he's about as rough as a cob until you get to know him. Some of the first projects, everybody was scared to work with him. And he's a little old, dried up fella and all, but he's amazing. And he's 82, 83. And you see he's got his stepladder over his shoulder. And actually, he kind of headed up the deconstruction of that. They had to tear all that old floor out. And when we left in May, I was in there talking to him, and he had his saw, circular saw, and he said, I went by the hardware store and bought 5 blades this morning, and he was sawing it because they put the floor, it was tongue and groove this way and this way, and they nailed it with cut nails. They nailed it in with cut nails, and he was cutting out 2x2 section, ripping it out. So he was eating saw blades up. But Sherman's a blessing to the projects. Next, okay, back up. You see our star there with the red shirt in the back? That's Titus. On the right, he's got a shovel in his hand. All right, next. All right, everyone has a great attitude, especially when it's mealtime and folks love joking around. That's Gloria and Larry from Wiggin, Mississippi on the left. That's Michelle and Jaylee Robinson. On the bottom on the right, that lady in the purple, that's Claudine from Arkansas. She's kind of our nurse and all. She kind of takes the kids under her wing and gets them to deliver drinks, pick up trash, and then she takes them ice cream at Brahms, and that's what she bribes them with. So that was good. And on the right, that character in the middle, that's Tommy Baker with a wig on. He's as bald as I am. So he breaks out every now and then and just kind of scares everybody. But that's Jeremy Mattingly on the right, the best bass singer. Jeremiah Mattingly on the right, best bass singer I've ever listened to. And then on the left is Brian Williamson, who's the mechanic in the Mount Pleasant, Texas shop. Macedon Missionary Service has 3 mechanic shops. Ricky Boyle is at Ackworth, Georgia. Terry Molden's at Science Hill, Kentucky. Brian Williamson is in Mount Pleasant, Texas. Brian and Terry are Ford mechanics. Brian still works for Ford. Terry finally retired and all. And pray for Brian because Brian is married to Jeremiah's sister, Ruth Ann, who's Mattingly. She just cut an album of her own. But they're praying and about going on deputation and him retiring from Ford full time. They're just Yep. In October 2022, that mechanic shop got built. We were there one day and then had to come home because of the floodwaters here. But pray for Brian and Ruth Ann and their project there. And so, all right, next slide. Staying hydrated in 95-degree plus temperature was important. There's Sherman. He's got his bottle of water. He's resting there. Again, Titus and Aaron and Michaela are handing out water. That's Brant, bottom right-hand side. He's our executive director. He's walking by drinking some Gatorade or something. But you see in the bottom left, Sean Finley, that's the pastor of Neville's church. There's Michaela again, Paul Lamb, and then Richard Wharton from California. Yes, ma'am. Sherman knows how to do everything construction-wise. But yeah, what was it, a hole, or did they cut a hole in the floor and he built the stairs down to the basement? You know. That was in Dover, Maine. George Deaver. George Deaver is the missionary, and George Deaver is sponsored by Neville's Chapel Baptist Church out of Mount Pleasant, Texas. All right, next slide. Yep. Concrete pours were done by portable concrete mixer to wheelbarrow to truck delivered ready mix for pads, door jambs, ramps, and steps. These 2 pictures on the left, I don't have the video, but we were trying to pour that door jamb with concrete there. And so they were trying to figure out, this Ryan Buddha in the gray shirt bent over he said, have we got something to dip this concrete out of the wheelbarrow? And I said, well, we got solo cups in the fellowship hall. So I went and got 2 solo cups, and we were dipping the concrete and chain past, and they were pouring it in the hole to build up the door jamb. All right, next slide. Back up a minute. The guy in the middle there, in the black shirt, that's Jared. I don't know his last. He's from Washington. He's a cabinet maker. And so when we was working with him in Oklahoma, he was saying, all right, cut me a board 86 inches and 9/64. My tape won't read 9/64. Anyway, he was precise on that, but I think we kind of got him broke of that a little bit. We deal in quarter and half inch, kind of barn measurements. So anyway, but he's a blessing. Jared's been at several. And Jared, I think, is Ryan Boot on the left. They volunteered full-time ministry building, he and his wife, Christy. Jared, he's surrendered to full-time ministry. So while we were in Oklahoma, Josh Durgamus from Bay Lake surrendered full-time ministry, and he's kind of taken over the spray foam trailer, which I'll show you some pictures of that in the middle. So pray for these guys. The Lord used them. Right now, Macedonian is scheduling 2 years out for projects. And, some of them aren't going to materialize, but some of them, but yeah, when they go and visit with a church and say, we need this, they're scheduling two years out. Who's the president of ABA now? Brian Sellers. He pastors a church in Arkansas where Glenn Campbell's from. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Fry, Arkansas, some little old hole in the road somewhere. But anyway, he's got a church, got about 300 members there, and he needs a new building. So anyway, next. Once stud walls, basic electric, and HVAC have been installed, spray foam insulations applied inside outer walls, and ceiling provides an exceptional R factor, saving money, lots of money, in heating and cooling costs. Top left is the trailer that the spray foam equipment's in. The 2 pictures on the left, that it takes 2 55-gallon drum barrels, red and white, and the machine puts that together. And the hose, it's a spray foam that sprays on the walls and the ceiling, and it sticks on the wall, and everything else it floats on too. I've got some shirts that's got spots on it, and you see that's the effect on the right there, the wall and in the ceiling and all. It's a hot job. You have to have a suit on with air, with an oxygen mask and that sort of thing, and they did buy some cooling hoses where they can kind of blow cool air, but it's a hot job, hard work. You got to get up in there and do that. But Paul Lamb said the last 2 projects that were done, he figured that it's saved. It's expensive. I think each one of those barrels, those 2 barrels together, are like $1,800 for one red and one white, and you have to buy them together. But he said it will save those churches about $35,000 with saving in heating and cooling. So it's a worthwhile ministry. And this is the guy from Bay Lake, Josh, is going to take over and do that on the project full time. Josh is 39 years old. His testimony is that until he was 37 years old, he'd never heard the gospel. Lives in Groveland, Lake County, Florida. And his uncle is a member at Bay Lake, Matt Stapleton, and Matt Stapleton went over to Africa with a group to build some buildings for Eddie Williams up in Turkana. And so when he came back, Josh worked for Matt, his uncle, in air conditioning business. And so he walked in there one day, and Matt, he was having a frown on his face. He said, I got to do a presentation of this at church. And he said, I don't know where to start. But anyway, when time came, Josh went home and told his wife, said, Uncle Matt's doing the presentation, let's go to church. So they did. And came time next Sunday, he says, what do you think about going to church? And his wife told him, said, well, you got to go do some shopping. I need to go buy some church clothes. And within about 2 or 3 weeks, he got saved. And, of course, Ben Britton's up there and that sort of thing. And it's just the power of the gospel to change people's lives is still tremendous. It is tremendous. And it's made a big change in Josh's life and his family. Now he's surrendered full time to the ministry. Next, sheetrock comes after spray foam installation. And there's a bunch of that piled up outside. It all had to get put inside, because it won't take any rain. And also, I was doing something else while they were doing all that. I'm not a sheetrock man. And I worked at it one day and kind of proved it to myself again. Next. Yeah, I've got one place where I was cutting out a hole for a attic, and I kind of got a little crazy on it, and I cut out a kind of a obtuse triangle that wasn't supposed to be cut out. So when God stuck it back up there, I signed it. So anyway, next. All right, August 3rd, 2024, 7 days of building, first week. And we start on Saturday, we stop on Sunday, and then we pick up on Monday and go through the next Saturday. So this was 7 days of building. Shows great progress in getting the project completed in the allotted 2-week period. There you see the hardy board. The steps are poured out front. 2 pictures of that. And you see again the spray foam upper right-hand corner, and then there's still a stud wall over on the right that doesn't have sheetrock on it, but the ceiling got sheetrock, and the wall on the left has sheetrock on it. Go ahead. All right, so I got to do something a little different, and I'm sorry, I should go to the next slide, and then let's back up. All right, end of week 1, focus was changed from building construction to fabrication of floor in the REACH food trailer. REACH stands for Reaching, Evangelizing, and Comforting the Hurting. This is a ministry that Todd Ward, who's the vice president of Macedon Missionary Service, along with a director, this trailer was donated to Macedon Missionary Service by Buddy Rainey, a church member up at Bay Lake Baptist Church. Buddy had this food trailer custom built. It's 53 feet long, and was going around at our state meeting 2 years ago in Westwood. He served the meals for everybody at the state meeting. That was, about 200 people? Yeah, about 150, 200 people. So this fully equipped with refrigerator, freezer, a grill, convection oven, fryers, and everything. And so Buddy took it to Ackworth for their missions revival last year, and cooked for them up there. And he told Paul Lamb, he says, I'm not dragging this thing home. He said, I'm donating the Macedon Missionary Service to use. He said, you can't have the truck. I'm going to drive the truck home. But you can have the food trailer. So a Macedon Missionary Service took it. Todd Ward has been on like 4 or 5 disaster relief. That's the purpose of it. They've got a building that blows up that holds about 40 people. And so they take that and this, and they've been in Iowa, they've been in Tennessee after storms, cooking for people, handing out John and Romans. So trying to help meet people's physical needs in that. So on the way back from Iowa, got home and opened it up, and the refrigerator fell through the floor. Because that plywood on the right, that when Buddy had it cleaned out, somebody used a pressure washer, and it got underneath the rubber matting and rotted the floor out. So there in the middle, we're replacing that rotten floor with 1/4-inch 4x8 sheeting that weighs about 300 pounds apiece. And we ended up putting about 4.5 sheets in that. So anyway, I got to help them do that, and then we had to drill holes and bolt everything down. But should be good to go now. Back up. So these tires are laying in the back, and they were just in the way all the time. These are spare tires. It's got 3 axles under it, so you need at least 2 spares. And so I figured out how to build some supports and all, and build a rack to kind of hold them in place. So we'll see how that works out. Next and next. All right. Then beginning of week 2 was blessed to help drive on a trip to deliver Riverview Heights donated van to Missionary in El Paso, Texas, whereas this is the missionary and his congregation. And that's the van in the background. Right. Cartel wouldn't say, "Oh, we need that." So. All right. Next. Yeah, still garnet and gold. Next. Next. Yeah, for youth camp. Yeah. Ricky. No, we delivered the missionary's house. That's the missionary there. He's a missionary in Juarez, Mexico, which was right across the border from El Paso. I mean, that. Yeah, they pack them out down there. But yeah, all right. Next slide. Ricky Boyle, missionary, Master Missionary Mechanic Director, brought the church from the shop in Ackworth to Mount Pleasant after installing he spent about $3,200 of the $5,000 that we sent to repair, and the rest of it, go toward the next van. We're not going to ask the money back. We left 3 a.m. Monday morning, August the 5th, to begin our 12-hour trip to El Paso. We went from Alpha to Omega in Texas. I mean, I don't know if you can go any further. From the northeast corner of Mount Pleasant, which is about 30 miles from Texarkana, all the way to El Paso, which is in the other corner. It's about a 12-hour trip. So here's the van on the trailer at Mount Pleasant. And when Ricky got there, he didn't have any brakes on the trailer, so he had to go find parts on Sunday night in order to get the brakes fixed on the trailer. We're on Interstate 10. We drove 20 and then got on Interstate 10. At this point, we're 144 miles from El Paso, and the speed limit's 80 miles an hour, but we're not doing 80 miles an hour pulling that van. Next slide. End of the 12-hour trail. Truck and trailer, these are Master Missionary ministry vehicles. The truck, they bought in Texas. Somebody put gas in it. Ricky said the grill was off of it, but they took it and he got it running again. It's got 264,000 miles on it. And at 264,000 miles, about 4 hours in the trip, the clutch on the AC condenser froze up. And we had to cut the belt off of it and roll the window down. But 264,000, that's pretty good, yeah. But that trailer is from Big Tex. And that trailer is donated by Big Tex, and they buy the tag for it. There was a manager with Big Tex. He was there at the beginning. His name is Randy Homer. He goes to church there at Neville's Chapel. Been a friend. His granddaddy was a missionary Baptist preacher. And he's been a blessing, Randy Homer has. And He's helped get a lot of stuff donated. After a 12-hour on the road, we turned around and headed back to Mount Pleasant, but we did stop at Midland, Texas for some rest at a hotel, so that was good to be able to do that. Next. Week 2 saw completion of sheetrock, electrical connections, and the final touch on the accent wall in the main room. Remember those boards they were painting, the ladies were painting? That's what they were for. That cross was on the wall, and then the boards are flush. They didn't put the board and put the cross on. They put the cross and then cut the boards up to it so it would all be flush. But that's in the big room, and they're going to use it for youth events. Okay. Yeah, prophets. Yeah, bathroom and all. Tommy Baker, they're doing the final connection on that. Next. All right, August 11th, after morning service at Neville Chapel, we hooked up the RV heading 700 miles east of Eubank, Kentucky to work on a mechanic shop just north of Somerset, Kentucky. RV travel life can be a challenge with the poor interstate road conditions. We stopped for the night, and I got up the next morning to go get gas, and I noticed, that tire's coming apart. So I was able to change it at the gas station rather than on the side of the interstate, so I was thankful for that. Next. Science Hill project did not begin until August 19th. However, we were able to pour concrete footers and columns for the outside 6x6 post extension beyond the 30x6 enclosure with a concrete floor from August 12th to August 17th. We were there kind of the week before. They got the mechanic shop at Science Hill. They've got a 30x60 concrete floor that was covered with enclosed with tin, and then there was another 20-foot extension out, the full 60 feet. And we helped pour the footers and the columns. And that's where Titus learned to mix concrete in a wheelbarrow. For the 6x6 post to stand on and hold that outside beam. Next. Yeah, day 1 and this after the 2 days of the mechanic shop extension. You can see the stud walls there. That's setting on the concrete. And then there's another 20-foot extension out. You can see the 6x6 post. Next. From left to right, Ricky Boyle, National Missionary Mechanics Director, Ackworth, Georgia. Terry Molden, he's the mechanic in Science Hill, Kentucky. And then Brant Lane, the Executive Director there in Somerset. Next. Last leg of our journey before heading home was from Eubank to Ackworth for Mission Revival at Hillcrest Missionary Baptist Church. That's about a 5-hour drive. And I didn't get a picture of Loraine modeling her new phone case at the Buc-ee's at Calhoun, Georgia. I wanted to put that in, but I didn't get that. Didn't have time. Next. Mission Revival, these were the invited guests. Roy Schneider from Elkins, West Virginia, and he's out of Jeff Shefstall's church there in Morgantown. Yeah. Jason. Yeah, Jason Sheff. Yeah, okay, thank you. Mark Thornton, he's at Warner Robins in Perry, Georgia. He's been there in Georgia all his life. I recognized him. I think he's been to some of the state meetings. He said he's not kin to Charlie. We asked him. He said he wasn't kin to Charlie. And then Toby Cribbs, who we support with Lighthouse Ministries up in Ducktown, he was there at the revival also. Next. These are missionaries sent out by Hillcrest Church that were invited, and they were guests too. Paul Lamb, we support Paul Lamb. He lives in Somerset, Kentucky, because that works better for being the building director. They attend Pine Hill Baptist Church, where Don Branscom's the pastor, and that's Hugo Malazzi's sponsoring church, but they're still members at Hillcrest. Mike Ryan, who we went to Peru with on a Macedonian trip back in January. We're scheduled to go again this January. David Harden, he does the Olympic Bible outreach. He just got back from Paris. And he said that was a difficult project to get together and get going. And I think the first week they were having trouble scheduling transportation. But I think about the middle of the first week, things just changed gears. He said it was very smooth, and it was a great project, great outreach. And then Ricky Boyle, who's the mechanic there at Ackworth, Georgia. Next. There were 2 special speakers. Justin Coburn. He is the Secretary and Treasurer of Missions in Texarkana. And he was pastoring there in DeKalb, Texas. And I think he still live there in DeKalb, because it's not that far from Texarkana. But he took over Roger Stewart, the Secretary and Treasurer, died down in Costa Rica, had a heart attack and all. So Justin kind of stepped in, and he told us a little bit of how that happened. He's a great preacher. He can preach, too, and play the piano, and all. So it was really a pleasure to get to know him a little better. And then Yorley Ormino, this is Carlos Angulo's son-in-law, married to Raquel. And that's who we went and did the Vacation Bible School back in January, and we're going again this January. So they were there with Rachel and Samuel. Next. All right, we left Ackworth Monday 26th of August, traveling to visit our property in Dawson, Georgia, then home August 28th in time to unhook the RV, get it leveled up, and made it to church. We thank the Lord for the privilege and opportunity to travel, visit with great friends, sweat a lot, and see great things accomplished for the Lord in this special ministry that allowed us to serve in. We want to thank our church family here for your prayers and your helping, standing in the gap, and staying by the stuff while we're gone. Yep. So, anyway, we're glad to be home, but we enjoy our trips. They're a tremendous blessing. Thank you.